What is up, guys? Digital VFX here, back again for video number 3 of FLFX, and this video is going to be on Fruity Compressor, or essentially compression in general, because a lot of compressors have the exact same parameters and they all do the exact same thing. They're just different layouts. So this is going to be on compression and how to do that and different applications of compression. So basically, long story short, what compression does, it's you may hear a lot of people talk about compressing various parts of their tracks, and it's kind of a different type of effect, because although it's very useful and used pretty much on every professional track you've ever listened to, it's kind of an invisible effect. I guess the best way to put it would be, the reason for that being is because it's not like a time-based processor such as a reverb or a delay, where you can point in it and say that is a compressor. Basically, what a compressor does is it gets a sound wave and it gets those high peaks, the loudest parts of the song, and it brings them down. And then what it does is it gets those quiet parts of the song and brings them up. So you have a little bit flatter of a dynamic range. So basically, it will just kind of smooth out your track, and it will kind of bring down possibility of clipping and bring up those really low volume sounds, and it'll just kind of make your mix sound a little bit cleaner. And it is very easy to overcompress, and being that it's an invisible effect, it's very easy to undercompress as well. So hopefully this video will get you a decent idea. Again, it's kind of a thing you have to practice. You have to get used to hearing, and then you'll know what sounds good and what's a better compression. But this is just going to be a video going over the basic parameters of a compressor. And yeah, so let's begin. So I basically have just the 4 default sounds in FL. It's going to be a kick, clap, snare, and hat. So I'm going to throw that in another basic drum beat like I started the series off in video 1. And if this is your first video, welcome. I highly recommend, though, watching from the beginning on, because basically I keep remembering things that I forgot to include in previous videos, and watching from video 1 on is the best way to start from broader concepts and moving up into more complicated techniques and you know, different concepts. They're all building on each other, so watching from video 1 on would be probably the best way to go about this, unless of course you know, obviously, things covered in previous videos. So anyway, so I have these 4 all selected. I'm going to start from this track like I started the other videos off. Just throw them in the mixer, get a basic mix down. I want my claps around that level, hi-hats around that, snares. Alright, so I have those in there in a basic mix, which sounds pretty good. And now I'm going to do the same thing I did in the first video, and I'm going to paste those 100% into the first send here, because in this application I'm going to be compressing all of the drums instead of each individual one. But as I previously mentioned in other videos, there's hundreds of different applications of where you can compress and for different effects. So basically I'll link them to this first send here, but if you notice now, when I bring this down, all of them are still playing because they are routed here, but they're still technically routed to the master channel. So if I want this send here to be the sole volume of all of these tracks, or all inserts that I do send to this send, if I want them all to be only controlled by this volume, you got to bring down this knob right here, which is basically the equivalent knob to sending these tracks, these inserts, to this send, except it's basically making sure these tracks are sent to the master as well as the send. So by bringing this down, whoops, I accidentally did that for the send, bring that back up to 100%. But so if I were to do that to the kick, basically I only want the kick, clap, hat, and snare to only be sent to the first send here. So for people who prefer to be organized, I can just put that under one drums subgroup. So now if you notice, if I bring down this and I play it, you can see signals being sent to these inserts, but there's no output because I have the volume to this drums channel all the way down. So as I bring it up, you can hear there are the drums. So enough about that. You came here for the compressor. The compressor is right here, Fruity compressor, and there isn't too many parameters on here, but basically these are the default parameters. Again, we have this little box that adds a little bit of characteristic to the compression. You're not going to see that on too many compressors, just like the reverb in last video that had the bright in the brighter and the flat characteristics. They're just kind of little filters or effects, I guess, that can make your sound a little bit better depending on which effect you choose. But that's just kind of native to this particular compressor in FL Studio. But you know, it all depends on your mix and what sound you're going for. So here is the threshold, which is probably the biggest in most used parameter. Threshold and ratio in compressions. Basically, the threshold is the level at which you want your compressor to start compressing. So 0, is called unity gain. That's normally the top where you never want your mix to cross, which anything above that's considered clipping. So if you look up here, right at 0 decibels is where it turns to red. So you normally want, you know, between 0 and 6 decibels of headroom. So around, obviously the closer to the 0 without going over, the better. But yeah, you normally want between 0, maybe, yeah, between 0 and -6. -6 being about the lowest you want it, and 0 obviously being the highest. But a threshold, you set that to when you want your compressor to start compressing. And ratio is how much your mix or your signal is being compressed. So this is kind of a nice compressor because you have a lot of different ratios in here, and you can pretty much set it to anything you want. Generally, in old school compressors, they are set in intervals of, there's 1:1, which is 0 compression, and as you can see here, it even goes below that. So I don't even know what you need that for, because that's next to no compression, 0.4 to 1. But essentially what this ratio is telling you is how many decibels in for how many decibels out. So if you put it up, obviously the more you go up, the more it's being compressed. So if you set it to 5.0, that would be once your mix crosses this line, -20. So let's say you play your drum beat. You can see it's peaking. It's peaking about there, around negative. Actually, I can mute the kick. Those snares are peaking around -14 decibels, and you do the opposite for the kick. Kick's peaking around -18. So as you can see, there's different levels in the peak. So that's what a compressor would be used for, is to kind of bring those levels together. And think of it as kind of smushing the sound together, but not really. Don't think of it as it's degrading quality. It shouldn't if it's used properly. But so yeah, this is that line, and so maybe this is how many decibels below 0 that you want it to start compressing. So let's see, I want it to start compressing around, I don't know, maybe -22. So let's just throw that to -22, and that means my compressor will start compressing this song, well, not this song, but my drum tracks, once it starts going above -22 decibels, which is right around here. So it's just about where that kick, I might want to bring that down a little bit more, because it's just around where the kick is peaking. So I don't know, maybe -35. So generally what studios or what professionals will do in a studio is they'll bring the ratio up to about what they want it to do, put the threshold at 0, and then back off, and you'll see an obvious compression effect and kind of get what sounds good. So just to kind of reiterate what I just said, let's put it up to a very high ratio, I don't know, 12:1, which is for every 12 decibels in, 1 decibel is going out. And so start the threshold at 0, which is 0 compression. And you can hear there is a very compressed mix, and it brought the kick levels down, it brought the snares down because they were peaking pretty high, and then it brought the hi-hat a little bit up, and it kind of smushed out that signal. And so moving on to other parameters, gain is the makeup gain. So as you noticed, and sometimes this is also called output, so that's what that means if you see it on a different compressor, depending on the DAW you're using, or if you're actually using an analog compressor. But as you notice, when I brought the threshold down, obviously when you're compressing, you're bringing down the level with this ratio. So if you compress a lot, let's say you might need a lot of compression on a certain track, the level goes down. And even if you look at the send, maybe this is all the way at 100% volume. If you don't want it to clip, or if you don't like, because I personally don't like having any volume track above 100%. Like, this just does not look good to me. Even if it's not clipping at all, I don't like seeing it there. What the makeup gain is for is pretty much after you bring, let's say the highs are peaking there and the lows are peaking here, and you squish them together, so now that the average is around right there, the makeup gain will now bring that level back up. So it's still compressed, but you basically didn't lose any of the amplitude that you had prior to compression. So that's what the makeup gain's for. So I'm going to overcompress this just like I just did to show you. Again, almost 14. That is an extremely high compression ratio. You normally wouldn't need anything up there. So as you can hear, there it's pretty quiet. Compared, if I turn the compressor off, it brought it down quite a bit. So just use this makeup gain to bring down back up to whatever level you desire. And the last two parameters, without going over this box, which I already kind of mentioned, are attack and release. And basically, again, having to do with the threshold. Attack is how fast your compression will happen once your signal crosses the threshold. So again, it has to do with what level you set your threshold to, but once that signal, the second it crosses that threshold, this is how fast the compression will happen. And on the flip side of that, this is how fast it will release. So think of it as just like the compression happening, kind of like an envelope when you look at a snare. Let me just, yeah, here's a little bit better. The attack on here is very short, and then the release is pretty long. So imagine that kind of in an envelope of what essentially is happening. The attack is how fast the compressor is happening. So in this instance, it's happening in 15 milliseconds, and again, releasing on 200 milliseconds. So again, play around, see what sounds good, and that's pretty much it for compressor. It's kind of hard to explain. Like I said, you got to just get a feel for it and listen to it a lot and understand what it sounds like, because it is an invisible effect, but it is a very wide used and popular effect. And like I said, you probably haven't listened to a professional song that didn't use compression. So I hope this video helped. As I've been saying a lot with this series, if I missed anything, or if you have any lingering questions that I may have not covered in the video, don't be afraid to comment on this video. Remember to comment, rate, subscribe, anything you liked about these videos. And it's been a Digital VFX production. Thanks for watching.